Before 1950, American children learned to identify dozens of wild plants in school. Nature study was a core subject. Children could name edible berries, medicinal herbs, and useful trees. Schools maintained botanical gardens where students learned plant relationships. Then something shifted after World War II. Botanical education disappeared from curricula. Nature study programs were eliminated. School gardens were replaced with cafeterias serving processed foods. Plant identification became an elective hobby rather than essential knowledge. The timing is interesting. This educational shift happened exactly when chemical companies were expanding from wartime production into civilian markets. The same period when processed food companies were building national distribution networks. When suburban development was replacing wild spaces with lawns requiring chemical maintenance. Victory garden programs that had taught millions of Americans to grow and identify food plants were discontinued. Government nutrition education shifted from promoting fresh, local foods to endorsing processed, packaged products. School lunch programs began featuring industrial food rather than fresh produce. Within a generation, children who once knew the names and uses of native plants couldn't identify basic food crops. Traditional botanical knowledge that had been common education became specialized expertise. Plant blindness became the norm. Meanwhile, the companies that benefited from this knowledge gap were expanding rapidly. Chemical corporations needed consumers who didn't understand natural pest control. Processed food companies needed customers who couldn't identify fresh alternatives. Pharmaceutical companies needed patients who didn't know traditional plant remedies. Educational policies shifted from teaching self-sufficiency to promoting consumption. From understanding natural systems to depending on industrial ones. From plant knowledge to product knowledge. Your grandparents' generation learned to identify wild foods in school. Your parents' generation learned to identify brand names instead. Traditional knowledge was systematically removed from education, just as industries that depended on that ignorance were expanding. Why do you think botanical education disappeared from schools at the exact moment when chemical and processed food industries were building their consumer base? Comment education if this timeline seems suspicious. Share this to discuss educational priorities. Save this to remember what schools used to teach. Follow for more questions about what disappeared from education.